and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I am making a Lightbox inspired by the Crystal Peak from the video game Hollow Knight. So first and foremost, I started on the very front layer. Originally I thought I would put the platform that the knight is standing on this layer, but then I decided not to, so you'll see I erase it and change it. And then I just start cutting it out with my knife. So the idea for this Lightbox was that it would be a mining scene because the Crystal Peak is a place where bugs mine for crystals. So there would be a lot of crystals in the front, and as the Lightbox keeps going, there's less and less crystals because there's going to be bugs there mining the crystals away, and then in the very front the knight would just be there overlooking everything. And this is the main layer, so I decided to do something a little interesting. Like, I wanted to add a secret little cave or tunnel in the top corner where I could hide a bug or some little crystal or something. So I did that, and it turned out pretty good. And here I started cutting out the knight, and he gave me so much trouble. I just couldn't draw him right. I don't know why. All the other bugs were super easy, but the knight I just struggled with. I redrew him so many times and he just looked stupid. So it was a struggle, but in the end I did manage to make him look pretty decent, I think. I also decided to add in some wooden beams, like they would be holding up the sides of the mine just to make it look more like a mine. So I added just a bunch of them throughout the whole Lightbox, and I really think it just added an extra detail that made it much nicer than before. And most of these layers are pretty easy and self-explanatory. It's just me drawing the crystals, cutting them out, just pretty basic layers that look pretty similar. So there's not much to talk about here. And for this layer, I knew that most of it wouldn't show, so I only drew on the crystals where I knew they would poke out, and the rest I just didn't draw them in. And it doesn't really matter because it doesn't show. And this next layer is where I really wanted to start getting rid of crystals and make it look like it was kind of mined out and make the Lightbox open up more. So I didn't put hardly any crystals on this layer, and it was just a super big wide open layer which wouldn't show too much, and it would just be a big spacer basically. When I looked at pictures of the Crystal Peak to see what I was going to do and get ideas, I saw these mining carts a lot, so I decided to put one, you know, and here I am just drawing it out. Details were pretty easy to cut out, but they were a little tricky because the wheels were kind of but in the end I did cut them out pretty nicely, and it looks pretty good, I think. And I think it's kind of satisfying how I cut out the beams. So yeah, those are nice. first I drew the bugs on the layers I was going to put them on and was going to cut them out with the layer together. But then when I was doing it, I realized that it was going to be too thin, the legs, to hold them up. And it would just be much easier to cut them out and then cut them out from a separate piece of paper and then just glue them on at the end. So that's what I did. So that's why you see the drawings, but then they're not there. So. And since we're nearing the end, I had to figure out a way how to cover the main hole in the back. So I thought I would add a whole layer that's just little beams supporting up everything, and they would kind of hide the hole in the back. And I'm sorry that this clip is so dark. The sun was setting, but I really wanted to finish this today. And in the next clip, it fixes itself. And now I get to cutting out all the bugs, and I start out with drawing the mining bug, and this was my favorite bug because it was just so simple and cute, and he was just so easy, unlike the knight. But yeah, I started out with him, and drawing him is pretty simple, and I decided I would do one bug mining away at a crystal on the wall, and then I'm going to have a mine cart full of crystals next to him, and a couple little baskets full of crystals too. And that's what I did for him. It was pretty cute and simple to cut out and everything. And then I did I believe it's a shard mite, but I'm not too sure. And this is a little more tricky because it was small and I had to do a lot of details. But I think it turned out pretty good. I glued the little shard mite guy up in the little cave so he would kind of be hidden. And then the mining bug, I cut out a crystal for it to mine because I realized there wasn't a crystal there for him to mine. And yeah, I just glued them on their layers. So now I start cutting out the foam board strips that will go between each layer to give it depth. The shorter strips I cut 8.5 inches long and 1.5 inches wide, and the longer strips I cut 10 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. And now I start putting all the pieces together. I start up with the backmost layer and I glue on my strips around the edges, and then I put on a heavy book to press it down flat so it doesn't warp while it dries. I ended up cutting some extra holes in the last couple layers to let more light in. I tested it out and not a lot of light got through, so I decided to cut some holes so more light would get through and it would look overall nicer. So I'm just repeating the process of gluing on the strips and then the layers, and I think it's really cool to see it all come together. This is my favorite part. And here's just what it looks like when it's done. It'll look much better when the light is in, but yeah. And here you could see that I glued little strips of the foam board along the top and bottom just so it would fit more snugly into the box I made. I'm just cutting out some parchment paper to glue over the holes so it would diffuse the light. And then here is the box that I made. I just used foam board and I painted it black, and I'm just gluing in the layers, and here are the LEDs that I used. Putting on these LEDs was quite a struggle because they wouldn't go the way I wanted them to. I had to try to loop them around many different ways and try many times to get them to how I wanted it. But in the end I succeeded, and then I glued the back on just with Elmer's glue, and then it was done. And I'm really proud of it, and I really like how it turned out. Thank you guys for watching, and if you enjoyed, please comment, like, subscribe, all this stuff. Bye!